Hello, everyone, and welcome to 4J Media Live. Today, this April 9th edition, we're going to talk about how to get started with JavaScript. So, let's head over to my trusty web browser, Firefox. Let me open this up. And I already have google.com loaded up here. So, we're going to go to Firefox Web Developer Tools. Okay, and we're going to click on the top link here, Firefox Developer Tools, MDN, and we're going to go to, let me see here, here we go, Learn Web Development. We're going to go down to JavaScript, Dynamic Client Side Scripting. So let's go to JavaScript First Steps and take a look at this. And this is really a great way to get started with JavaScript. So let's look at what is JavaScript. So right here it says a high-level definition. JavaScript is a scripting or programming language that allows you to implement complex things on web pages. Every time a web page does more than just sit there and display static information for you to look at, displaying timely content updates, interactive maps, animated 2 and 3D graphics, scrolling video, jukeboxes, etc., you can bet that JavaScript is probably involved. It is the third layer of the layer cake of a standard web technology, two of which are HTML and CSS. So you can see here, that's a really bad color. Anyway, this is the cake, as they say, or the stack. This is a HTML is your first layer, then you have CSS, then you have JavaScript. So to give you an example here, so let's say the 3-layer build on top of one another nicely. Let's take a simple text label as an example. We can mark it up with using HTML to give it structure and purpose. So we have player 1 is Chris. Okay, then we can style it with CSS, and then finally we can add some JavaScript to implement dynamic behavior. So when you click it, it'll say enter a new name. So basically they took this is the structure, this is the design or layout of the object, and then this gives it functionality. So it gives you the ability to work with those two other stacks or cakes or layers, whatever you want to call it, and it gives you the ability to change information based on what they ran here. They added an event listener, so when you click it, they run the function update name. So let or variable name equals prompt, enter a new name, par.textcont equals content equals player 1 plus name. So let's do Josh. Okay, now it's going to display that name, because what we're doing is we're calling for the update the name with the event listener. And so the event listener is listening for you. It's saying, hey, you out there, user, I'm waiting for you to give me a name so that I can display this. And so when you click it and you update the name, then it runs this. The variable name equals prompt. So the prompt is this. This is the prompt. And enter a new name. You see right here, enter a new name. Par.text content equals player 1 plus name. So what it's doing is this is going to display the final information. So when I type in Josh, it's going to say player 1 colon plus name. So we're doing concatenation here. So you're basically running player 1 with a space and then my name. And you see here how the formatting is the same. And if I could edit this, you could move it over, and what it would do is Josh would be right up against the colon. That's why they did the concatenation, so that they can separate out the spaces, because you'd be amazed, you'll run something and the space is jacked up and you're like, why am I looking at this and why is this so jacked up? It's because they didn't use concatenation. So that's a little bit about JavaScript. Like I said, this is just a get started webinar, information only. In the future, I am going to be running a short mini series on this to give you a more hands-on experience But let's look at one more thing here. What is JavaScript doing on your page? So what happens is JavaScript is executed by the browser's JavaScript engine after HTML and CSS have been assembled and put together into a web page. This ensures the structure and style of the page are already in place by the time that JavaScript starts to run. This is a good thing, as a very common use of JavaScript is dynamically modify HTML and CSS to update a user interface via the doc object model API as mentioned above. The JavaScript loaded and tried to run before the HTML and CSS were to affect, then errors would occur. So basically what they're saying is, when you load a web page, if I load this web page or any other web page, what it's going to do is it's going to run, I'm going to scroll to the top here real quick. It's going to run the text first, okay? So let me give you an example. If I go into inspect and I go to style editor and I delete all this, right? Let me copy it first and then I'm going to delete it. Okay. Now, you can see that this web page is now just HTML. This is the structure of the Mozilla website, right? So when I scroll down, all you see is text and images, because that's what the structure is. That's the layout of the site. More of the structure than the layout, but this is the layout. Now, when I add the CSS, all 4,000 lines, then it styles everything. So now here's your styling, okay? And then if they have JavaScript in here, which I'm sure they do somewhere, let me see. Then you have your CSS here, okay? So it's like I said, when I got rid of this, okay, I eliminated the CSS. So it was just it just has the structure. Then I added the styling. So that's exactly how a web browser works. It does this. It loads this first, then it loads the styling or the CSS, and then it runs the JavaScript from there. So if there's dynamic code on here, which I'm sure there is, then you can go from there. So that's how you get started with JavaScript. This is a very basic and informative starting point, but again, it's just to give you some basic information, and make sure that you go through these and take a look at these. Look at the first steps. Do all these right here. Work through those, and I'm going to be covering this at a later date. All right, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.